Hello, my name is Ankit Alex Hansda, ER15 CS258, and I'm making this video to explain about the program I've made for fifth experiment for C++ lab. For the first question, the first part, the aim of the experiment is to take two matrices as input and add them, subtract them, and multiply those matrices and store it in the third matrix by making a class known as matrix. So first, I will include the required header files, that is iostream. uh, Next, I will make a class named matrix. Then I will define its data member, that is row, column, and mat. This row is to store the row of the matrix, and this column is to store the number of columns in the matrix. And mat tendon, it's the array which will store the data. So these are the data members. You define the data members. Now moving on to the functions. First, I have used the constructor to assign the default values. Next is void get data. This function is to get the inputs of the matrices, that is the data which we will input into the matrices. For this, I have used a nested loop where first is for the number of rows, and I is for the number of rows, and G is for the number of columns. Next is void add. Under this function, we will have two matrices as inputs, and we will add its elements and store it in the third matrix. For this, again, for this first, I will check first the dimensions of the two matrices, and if they are equal, then only will proceed to add those elements. Otherwise, it will show a message that the matrices cannot be added. So for adding, I have again used nested loops, and I have added each elements of matrix 1 and matrix 2 and stored it in the third element. Next is subtraction. In this function is similar to the addition function. The only difference is that instead in this line, inside the nested loop, instead of adding the elements, each extracted element, we will subtract the each extracted element, and then we will store it in the third matrix. Now the next function is the product function. In this function, we will take the two matrices as input, and first we will check whether the rows of first one is equal to the column of the second matrix. If they are not equal, it will show the message that the matrices are not multiplied. But if they are equal, then they are compatible with each other, and can be multiplied. So here I have again used nested loops, but I have used here three loops. The first loop is to transverse through the column of first matrix. The second loop is to transverse through the rows of the second matrix, and the third one is to transverse through the rows of the first and columns of the second one. Since, as you can see here, I have used this formula to multiply the rows and columns of the matrices. So it will multiply the rows with the columns and add it and make the elements of the third. We will see the result later in the program. And here I have assigned the rows and columns of the third matrix, so that when I later try to display it, it doesn't shows any error, or just runs to infinity. Next is display function. Through this, here I have again used nested loops, and it will print each element of the matrix in the matrix form. Next is main function. This main function is to call the objects from the classes and display the function. So let's try in some samples. So let's try a 2 2 matrix, another 2 2 matrix. Let it be 2. So as you can see, the sum is 3 3, which you can get it. The subtraction is minus 1, which is also correct, and product is 4 4 4. As you can see, we have got the right answer.